so long as like alchemy.
Take a look at that ring, man. That thing is filthy. So you can open it up, flip out the middle, and change, I don't know, the accent or whatever you call the middle to white diamonds. But that is easily the cleanest championship ring I've ever seen, as it should be, right? As we advance, the things should get fancier. But that is one hell of a ring on ring night. KD was announced last. Everybody making note of that, and post-game, he was like, well, what you think? You think it's something, right? He kind of gave the Russ type answer as you see them. And historically speaking, ring night is tough for the championship team as you see the exiled member of Boys to Men standing courtside. You know that had to be salty for Russ, sitting there watching KD get number 2 or accept number 2, right? He's out with the cleaned up meniscus. I believe it's his 3rd or 4th knee surgery, man. And his mind is so strong that he always comes back like he never left. But at some point, man, it's going to slow him down. So no Roberson as well. Paul George leading this squad. You know, the new acquisition, Schroeder, Nerlens Noel. They drafted a rookie, Diallo, in the 2nd round they like. But this is a very athletic team. You take a look at the starting lineups here. Patrick Patterson, year 2 after the ACL. You should expect him to be moving better. Ferguson, a defensive athlete. And of course, New Zealand's finest, Steven Adams in the middle, who is questionable with back pain. He's always questionable, right? He stays chipped up, just the physicality of his game. I'm not a big fan of the scripted play right away. As you see, OKC knew exactly what it was, and the way they scout now, it's just too predictable. You need to be more dynamic. Now watch the moving screen from Damian here in the corner to get Steph the open 3, and the reason I point that out is because how many calls did we see in preseason, and then the regular season starts and there's none of that. Here's the switch out on Dennis Schroeder, and he gets beat, but then he recovers with his length. Schroeder, easily a top 5 quickest player in the league. Now watch Russ. He's screaming to give it to Adams in the post. Look at Russ standing. He's like, yo, post KD up, post KD up. They go to it, and then KD gets in his Iguodala bag, the spin and the rip through, and then he lets Russ know about it. So a fun little moment between those two early on in the game. Take another look at it, and that's what you got to do when you're overpowered and oversized. You got to get him low before he brings it up, and KD did just that. Damian Jones getting the start, and he Blake Griffins the lob. Take another look at this one. He didn't even get rim. I didn't think he was going to get that one. And to go up and get it with 2 hands makes it even more impressive. Usually you have to overextend with one arm when it's, you know, overthrown, and he gets the early lob. Watch Clay double clutch on that 3 ball right there. And that's the Paul George effect. Paul George is so good at getting over screens and recovering and challenging shots. I think he bothered Clay throughout this game, but I liked the motion cutting from both KD and Steph early on. OKC, very athletic, very quick. You have to take advantage of that with these cuts to the basket because they're so good at closing out on your shot. There's Steph getting it to roll over the 7-footer. Now, if you remember our matchups last year, Adams destroyed McGee in the post. McGee is a lot of things. One thing he's not is strong in the block, and he gets moved around. And Adams just simply couldn't do that against Damian Jones tonight. I'm not going to lie, man. I was very impressed with Jones's debut here this season. You see him on the offensive glass, and that was a story in this game. The Warriors' young bigs on the offensive glass, Looney, and you got to see Jones go up strong there, though. You know, there's a give and take. He's still learning, and you see moments of aggression and moments of passiveness. That was just too soft at the rim there. Now, obviously, with Russ out, Paul became the focal point of the offense. Look at him, big boy Iguodala right there in the low mid. I don't know where to call that area of the floor, but I had talked this summer about him losing a step athletically. He's going to be just fine with his size and skills. Now watch, see how Schroeder's on Steph's tail the whole way around? This was by design. They knew they weren't going to have as many open looks with the quickness and length of their defenders. It's been pretty well publicized how good of shape Looney is in going into this season, and you could see him getting off the floor like we've never seen him before, and then no one wanted to step up and be the next contestant on the Summer Jam screen, right? They were like, you get him, you get him. No one wanted to make that Sports Center highlight, so Steph took a rhythm dribble, wide open corner 3. But what I really liked to start this game was the physicality and the competitiveness between these two in particular. KD and Paul George have been going at each other for probably 10 years now, right? And it was spirited competitiveness, it got physical, and it was fun to watch. PG in the lane, and there's Nerlens Noel, who super talented, but he apparently is just a bad seed, right? He hasn't been able to make it on any team or any roster. The talent is there. Another Kentucky product. Draymond roofed. If it wasn't the player to bend the rim, no elevation out of Draymond. Call it out of shape or talk about the knee, I don't know. And there's a Brenus to the rim. And this is how OKC is going to have to play. Their defense is going to have to lead to transition offense because they're not going to be a great half-court offensive team. Another story in this game were the turnovers. And Draymond was a big culprit in these. But you have to give OKC credit. I think they forced quite a bit of turnovers. Look at Klay off the dribble, hop step, finish in the rim. Now, Klay was very aggressive, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. More on that later. And there's another one from Draymond, one of his 6 on the night. And you can tell his timing is off and he's out of shape. But there's a plethora of issues with Draymond as you see Fat Boy Felton all the way to the rim. That's a problem when he's scooping to the rim. And there's Klay off the dribble. Now, I want to state that I think OKC is a bad matchup for Klay because they're so long and athletic, he tends to struggle. But he forced things more than he usually does. You see Bell get in there with back-to-back blocks. Bell only 6 minutes on the night as it was Looney and Jones holding down the forward spot. A little of Jerebko later in this game. And here we go, Klay again off the dribble. This time he takes his ankles. So as Klay expands his game and tries to score more off the bounce, we're going to see his efficiency go down, but it'll pay dividends as he gets better at it. You see Iguodala clutch and completely airball the 3. He would not play the second half. Steph continued to get to the basket, and guess who on the offensive glass? Kevon Looney. Now here's only Steph can shoot this shot, right? He's not open. He's got 2 defenders closing out on him, but he releases it literally as he catches it, just ridiculous. And here's probably the best play from Draymond offensively all night, drops the shoulder and scores over Adams. KD, it almost felt was like third fiddle in this game just because of how aggressive Klay and Steph both were. There's a nasty crossover, and at first I thought this was a terrible call. First I thought it was a carry on the cross, but if you take another look at it, it's the calls on Livingston holding Abrinas there. You see him down there at the American flag. He's holding Abrinas, the help defender, to come over, so it wasn't a call on Durant to clear things up. Part of Draymond's turnovers, look how slow he's playing. When you haven't played, the game seems super fast and your passes are late and things are late. Now, Alfonso McKinney comes in here to finish the half, and I make note of that because it wasn't the rookie Jacob Evans. So McKinney apparently ahead of Evans on the depth charts, and watch him go under the screen here. Abrinas, mind you, had just hit a 3 on the previous play, and it's little things like that where I question the 26-year-old's IQ. Steph, the anti-Russ, letting his big man get the rebound, and Jones doesn't nab it up, and the Warriors almost pay for it. And those are the acts of aggression we're looking for from Jones. He should think any ball in his vicinity is his rebound, and Steph was trying to give that up to him. He still rewards him on the other end, and he still had a great game, but I'm just pointing out some of the plays where he shows his lack of aggression. Paul George was absolutely wet in the second half, and he's fully capable of that. Paul George is the rare right-handed player who still likes to shoot going right, and that right high elbow is his spot. You see him, and there's not a lot you can do about this. The Warriors were lackadaisical, I feel, about going over screens. They were still wanting to go under them even when he caught fire, but the chef had to answer all night. You see him rain the 3 down here, and then watch Jones clean this up with 2 hands. Only 3 rebounds on the night for Jones, but I'll give him credit. He goes and finds a body. He goes and boxes his guy out, so he's not going to have high rebound numbers. Sometimes you see the gravity at this point. Paul George was hot. He gets Patterson the wide open look, and that's what they need him to do. They're desperate for shooters. They need Patterson knocking him down. There's KD once again going under the screen. At this point, Paul George has hit like 3 or 4 in a row. There's no excuse for that. That's just a lack of respect for this OKC team, and then very un-Klay-like. Dribbles down the court, doesn't pass, and then forces up a tough shot. And that's what I was pointing out. And I couldn't help but think about contract year, right? That's all I could think about. I like the little bounce pocket passes we're seeing from Steph. Now, after a timeout, now watch KD's defense on Paul George. See how he fights over, and then they hard hedge and basically trap him. And sometimes, I mean, I guess it takes the coach to tell you that, but KD knows what he needs to do if Paul George is going. But after the timeout, they sewed up the defense. But at this point, OKC already had confidence and rhythm. And when Schroeder's knocking down the pull-up, that's when you're in trouble because you have to deny him getting to the rim. Looney, the kick out, and Steph, splash. 5 of 9 from downtown, 32 points. And I felt like the Warriors were playing all 3 stars were playing a little kind of more selfish than they normally do. But I took a look at the stat sheet, 20, 20, and 21 attempts for the 3 scores on this team, right? And I think that part of it was OKC. OKC's athleticism and defense that I keep mentioning forced the Warriors to pass the ball less because they knew they didn't have as many opportunities. They had first shot's best shot type of theory. I don't know, kind of a weird thing. Let me know what you guys think because they had 28 assists, but it felt like a case where the numbers lied, right? Didn't it feel like that Steph and KD in particular were kind of looking for theirs more than they usually do? They weren't making the extra pass. Now, here was the ugliest offensive sequence of the game, and I felt like Steph knew it. He took blame for him. Watch him at the end of the sequence. But I can't help, I don't want to make this a narrative, but I can't help but be honest with you guys and tell you what crept into my head as I watched this. Like, is this the year that the egos take over? You know, obviously this is game one. I don't want to overreact. I'm just saying they have their rings, they have their glory, they have their money. Is this the point now where these stars start to really kind of like want to shine themselves and show that they're the guy? And, you know, it's way too early to say that. I'm just letting you know what crept into my mind as I watched everybody kind of play hero basketball in certain moments of this opening night. And we got a long ways to go, but I'm going to say how I feel because that's just what I do. And I feel like Draymond should just never shoot this shot. He just needs to be patient and wait for KD to fire back out. And I know he hit that shot a couple times last year, but Draymond, stop it. You could tell he just wasn't comfortable with the ball in his hands. In and out dribble Steph continued to go coast to coast. Now, this next play here, Steph would always drop this off to Draymond. And is this Steph just looking for his? Or maybe he knows Draymond can't finish at the rim right now. So it's hard to say, but I just noticed Steph being, you know, passing up some passes for his own shots as you see Abrinas knock the three down with his 2018 deliverance beard. And OKC was in this game, man. It was the second half kind of belonged to OKC. Or at least the third quarter did, as you see Grant with the athletic move. Again, so many long athletes, but do they have the shooters? And speaking of shooting, this dude could not hit the broadside of a barn. 5 of 20. And look, we know Klay's not going to stop shooting. Even when he's in a slump, we've seen him shoot himself out of slumps. It just felt a little different. It felt like he was forcing the issue a little more than we've seen in the past, especially when you have so many other weapons. Now, you could legit make the argument that Kevon Looney was the second best player in this game for the Warriors. 10-10, 2 assists and 2 blocks in 18 minutes. Ridiculous. Patrick McCaw, take note. This is how you do it because Looney is going to get himself a payday, man. He's staying the course. And Steph, another finish at the rim. And Steph, he just doesn't fall well. You see him over there. He doesn't fall well. I'll elaborate on that a little more now. Usually you don't see Looney this tight on a shooter, but he knows Paul's been hot. And so that's the right play. Looney with the IQ. You can't give him the step back because he's been railing him. And then here he is again. 8 offensive rebounds. That's ridiculous stat right there. I didn't know that until I checked the stat sheet. Now here we go. Looney, Paul George one-on-one. And dude, this is impressive, right? Gapping him, breaks his rhythm with his hand, shot clock winding down, and then the late help from Damian Jones. And a great defensive stand led by Kevon Looney down the stretch of this game. One more example of Jones holding his ground, and that's a big hook swing. Watch, Boogie doesn't like that call. But just Jones holding his ground against one of the more physical post players in this league. Now, they're going to call this foul on Durant. That's fine. That's fine. I just want to see it being called against LeBron, okay? Let's take a look at it from this angle. You'll see the foul. That's fine. But I just want to see it being called against LeBron. You're going to call it on KD, call it on LeBron. It's that simple. Let's stay consistent with it. They're both superstars, so it's got to be that way. And then Draymond, as bad as he played, he finds a way to make a winning play late in the game. Comes over with the late trap and creates the turnover. Now, I did catch an extra little hitch and Klay shot on this night. And again, I think it has to do with the length of their defenders and him kind of second-guessing his release to be sure that he's open. Lucky for us, though, Steph wasn't second-guessing anything, right? Very aggressive for him in an opener. And he gets the and one there. As this is still a close game, under 2 minutes, you see it's a 3-point game. KD, it squirts out. But look at the trust. Steph wanted that in the corner bad. But look at the trust in Kevon. And again, the double-double in 18 minutes playing down the stretch. And to steal from Chris Webber and what he was saying about Paul George, it rings true for Klay as well. If Klay's struggling offensively, just get back and play some defense. And he puts the clampers on Paul George late. Shooter, the law of averages, he's not a shooter despite the way he shot earlier on. Airballs the 3. Now this screen and roll with Steph and KD, KD's got to set a better screen, man. And ultimately, he just wants the ball back. It's for the switch. But it bugs me how lackadaisical his screens are and then the scary moment of the game. Now, as I record this, I haven't heard any news out of it. He seemed to be okay. And how I said Steph doesn't fall well, KD falls well. If you notice, he, for whatever reason, when he lands, he just knows how to fall. Monte was a great example of that back in the day. Monte would take some bad falls, and he was always all right. And dodging a bullet there, if that was the shoulder or the elbow, God forbid, like a Bogut-like injury, could have been devastating to end this game. As not the prettiest of wins, but a win's a win on opening night. And being the spoiled fan that I am, I'm kind of excited to see some adversity over this weekend. You've got Utah and Denver are not going to be easy, especially if they played like this. And you know I'm going to bring that heat. I'm out, y'all.
I've been winning so long.